Hello everyone and welcome to a subcompact sedan that is pretty popular across the segment, and also it's one of the top 3 for sure because it's an unmissable name, which is this Honda City. So in today's video we're going to be finding out everything in detail about the 2022 Honda City. But before we move forward, please consider subscribing to my channel by clicking that subscription button, and also next to that there's a bell icon. Make sure to press that and leave all the notifications on, so that way you will never miss any video updates from my channel. Now this new Honda City is offered in 4 different models, which is the DX, LX and the EX. EX is the top of the line, whereas this particular model that I am reviewing is the LX Sport. So it's just one model which is available, which is in the LX variant. So let's start from the front. So what's new in this new Honda City? So you get this new front grille out here, which is in the normal plastic out here, and then this glossy bit on top with the Honda badging in chrome. But the thing is, in the standard versions you would find this as the chrome one, but on the sport version this is one of the things that you will find. There are lots of things that I'll come across and I'll tell you what are those. So this is one of it, which is the part of the sport package. There are also these black color glossy plastics that continue on top of the headlights as well. When you come to these headlights, there are also DRLs inside this headlights, which are the LED DRLs, and the turn signals are just the halogen turn signals which are given on the outer side, whereas the headlight itself is made out of halogens, whereas on the EX model you get the LED versions of it. And at the bottom of this there is also this normal plastic which has been given, and it's not a vent or anything, just the normal one, and inside that you will find your fog lights, which are the LED fog lights. At the bottom, this is where another bit of plastic trim which has been given, but it's a carbon fiber design which has been given. So again, that's a part of the sports package that you get, like these carbon fiber plastic trims in the front and also in the back. Now when we continue on the sides, you get these headlights that continue on the side profile, and in the previous generation of the City the DRS used to be at the bottom. Now on this one they have moved on the top side, so that's one of the changes on this new City. And you get 16-inch alloy rims in this very standard design. There's also this turn signals, and that's the halogen one. And in terms of the side mirror, these are the black colored side mirror, again a part of the sport package, but they are just non-power foldable side mirrors. They are just power adjustable, and they also don't have the blind spot warning or anything at the bottom. A very similar design to the previous generation. And then these doors are keyless entry door handles. They are smart keyless entry doors, so you walk towards the car and then it would automatically unlock itself for you, but only the front 2 doors, the rear ones aren't. There's also this thick shoulder line that goes till the back, and then seemingly normal design out here. Instead of the chrome, you have the blacked out side borders that you get on these windows, and at the back again 16-inch rims, and you get these extended tail lights out here as well. And as a part of the package, the sport package, you get black colored radio antenna. Now in the rear you get this black color spoiler out here, which is again a part of the sport package. In terms of the tail lights, you have a combination of LED and halogen tail light cluster that extends from the side profile till here as well. There is also this City badging, Honda badging, and the sport badging in chrome. At the bottom, a relatively simple bumper design out here, but at the bottom of that you will find this diffuser, which is a fake diffuser, but it's in the carbon fiber, which is a plastic trim that has been given, again a part of the sport package. As I mentioned, in terms of the visibility, it's actually quite alright, although there are just some thick pillars that will just hinder a little bit, but on a day-to-day basis it's kind of alright. Now when you come to the boot space, when I open the door, you can put in this standard setting 506 liters of luggage in the back, which is pretty decent actually in terms of the volume, and it's also quite deep enough. There is also a bit of a lip out here, thick one, so when you load your luggage it's going to be a little bit of a task to get it out as well. There are also scuff plates out here so that you don't damage your bumper. And at the bottom of this boot floor you will also find a full size spare wheel that has been given with the same alloy design and everything, so you just remove and then replace that, so that's quite easier. But otherwise it's a pretty simple one. There are no tying points or anything. There's not even a boot light or anything. So these rear seats also aren't foldable in the City, so this is pretty much the fixed setup that you get on this one, although it just opens out around the edge of it, like out here and out here, so you can put like longer objects, horizontally. But yeah, that's about it. But one thing that hasn't changed still on the Honda City, it's this: there is no damping. So when you leave, like, yeah, it just falls down immediately. So that's one thing which hasn't changed yet. So on the inside, the Honda City is still quite simple to use, and to be honest, pretty basic that way, and quite easier to understand also. So let me start with the material quality. So you get plastic dashboard out here, hard plastic, even out here, even on the door cards there is just normal plastic. On the sides again plastic, where you're going to be resting hands, that's just the white color fabric that's been covered. At the bottom plastic, even out here there's plastic, even on the sides there's plastic. So lots of plastic materials that have been given. The roof is with the normal carpet type of lining, and then you get these carpets as well, which are lined with the red color border. Again, I think that's a part of the sport package. And then these seats, which are fabric seats, I'm going to come to that as well. So yeah, that way the interior is quite basic, but it's just built for everyday rough and tough use. So whatever you just throw at it, it's not gonna like break down or fall apart or anything, which is why it's just made pretty simplified that way. There are some newer changes out here on this City that I'm gonna come to that. So let me start with the driver's display. So you get two traditional dials on both the sides, and then a screen in the middle. That screen, again, that's a digital one, but then it's just pretty basic in terms of its information that you can change. So you can change your trip range, and then you can see your average fuel consumption, and then you can change your clock and then just come back. So that is pretty much it in terms of the driver's display. When you come to the steering wheel, this is a leather covered steering wheel, and it's actually kind of all right in terms of its feel, and it's a round steering wheel and pretty decent size as well. It fits pretty well in your hands, and there are also paddle shifters which are given out here, but this is a CVT, so paddle shifters is, I think, going to be the least used feature on this car. And then these are just the plastic paddle shifters as well, and the steering wheel is just one adjustability, which is your telescopic. It's not tilt or anything, so you can just adjust the telescopic thing. That's about it. And on the right side you would find the controls for your cruise control, which is the standard cruise control which has been given on this City LX Sport version, while on the left side you would find the controls for your communication and also all the media controls, your volume, your track changer and everything. So that's pretty much the simplified steering setup, and this is what I like on a day-to-day basis, which is why I said it's just very easy. Once you get inside the car, it's just straightforward. Now, even the straightforward thing, one more thing is the air conditioning dial. So the air conditioning is straightforward, button operated, and then there are these dials. So one more good thing is the quality of these dials. Oh, it's so amazing. But it's pretty simple, straightforward on and off button that has been given. That's also the fan dial, and I just love hearing the sound of these dials. Like, they are quite, yeah, so good to hear them. And the other buttons are straightforward dials are given, and you get a single zone air conditioning system. That's about it. So no more fuss from the touchscreen or anything, just straightforward button operated. When you come to the infotainment screen, this is another benefit or an upgrade that you get with the City, which is an 8-inch colorful display, and it's a pretty simple operation. There are buttons given on the sides for your menu, back, volume and power, although the volume knob would have been better because every time you have to just keep pressing them, so, or from the steering wheel that you have to adjust. So yeah, a dial would have been nicer. And on the main screen there is like a widget which shows you your media option, and at the bottom there are all other options like your radio and your USB, then there is the Bluetooth, and then there is the phone option, then there is the app. So in terms of the connectivity, you can connect to this infotainment system using the Bluetooth. There is also the USB, there is also Android Auto and Apple CarPlay, which is the wired one, and this is for the first time it has been introduced again because it's an upgraded screen, so you get that as well. So that makes life pretty easier. And then anyways, you're going to be using the Google Maps, so even your navigation is sorted with this screen as well. And then there is the detailed setting options in which you can change your language, Bluetooth and all the detailed settings that you want on this Honda City. So that's pretty much it, and just straightforward menu option that has been given on this infotainment screen. Now when you come to the charging, you get two standard USB ports. One is for the charging and one is for the connectivity, and then one more 12-volt power socket which has been given out here, and that is about it. There are no more power sockets or USB ports which are given for the rear passenger. And also on this Honda City you get an SOS button for an emergency purpose, medical emergency or any emergency or an accident. You can just press that and coordinates will be sent and someone will get in touch with you to help you out with that. There's also no sunroof on this Honda City, whereas in terms of the storage, you can put about 1 to 1.5 liter worth of bottle in the door cards and some more storage on the side. There are still a lot of storage option which I like, and there are these couple of storage options that you get underneath the air conditioning control, like a shelf where you can put the phone and your keys. There are also two normal cup holders which are given. I wish they were flexible ones. There's also another slot where you can just put your key, but I'm sure it's not for that, but you can still use it. There are a couple of slots given next to the handbrake, physical one, and you can just put your phones out here when they are charging. There's also this glove box which is decently sized. There's also this handrest which you can use to put your phones and wallets, but it's not a slidable one, so that's the only thing. So whenever you're driving, you can see my hands are literally in the air, and I know you will say that I can lower the seat or something, but yeah, these seats actually just don't go down a lot, which is what I'm gonna come to that as well. There's also one more storage option given next to the steering wheel on the left side where you can put your cards, and that's about it. So that is your storage option in the front, whereas in the back you can put again 1 to 1.5 liter worth of bottle in both the door cards, but there are no cup holders or anything for the rear passenger. Now there is also an econ button which has been given, which is your eco mode that is being given. If you want, you can try that, but otherwise yeah, it's alright. And then this your shifter, which is pretty plain and simple. Now in terms of the seats, these are the white color fabric seats and a bit of a design out here in the back and even at the bottom, and these seats are super comfortable, A, because they are fabric seats, and B, they don't get heated up during the summers, especially in the UAE, because if it was a leather seat, yeah, this would have nearly cooked your bottom for sure. But on this one, any given day you just enter in and it's always cool and pleasant. And the only drawback is that these tend to get a little dirty, especially if this is a white colored one, whereas the leather one you can just wipe it and then it's just done. But otherwise, yeah, they give you decent amount of support underneath the thigh, and also the headrest is pretty soft that way because of the fabric option. Again, there are good bit of side support also, and even at the bottom there is a decent amount of support, although a little bit of lumbar support would have been nicer. Whereas the driver and the passenger side seat are both mechanically adjustable and nothing is electronic, but again, that's a good thing. Now in the rear, as you can see on this new City, the space is quite ample, and it has always been like that even in the previous generation. So you get very good amount of knee room, and the headroom is just about enough, although it's slightly lesser. I feel like someone about 6 feet may just start brushing their heads against the ceiling. And these seats are in my driving position, and this is how much leg room that we have out here. But otherwise, the angle of these seats is very good. There's also a good amount of recline to it, so you're sitting quite easily out here. And one more thing which I had forgotten to mention was that the driver and the passenger side seat, they don't go down a lot, so which is why it feels like you're like in an elevated driving position, and which is why even in the front the headroom gets a little tight sometimes, especially if you're a taller person, because these seats don't go down a lot, and which is why the handrest, you can't rest your hand, it's always kind of floating that way. So even out here in the back, these seats are white color fabric seats in this design at the back and even at the bottom, and they are super comfortable because they are pretty soft, and which is why they are fabric, so they're gonna make your life a lot more easier. And I can just slide my legs under the seat in the front, but it's not much of a room because the floor is kind of going a little upward, so yeah, that reduces the bit of a space that I get. And even in the back you get these carpets, and there is a small bit of tunnel that is given out here, although this is a front wheel drive car, but still there's a bit of a tunnel that has been given. And there are two air conditioning vents which are given. You can just control the flow of air and the direction of air. That is pretty much about it. At the bottom there is a small bit of storage in which you can put your wallet or something, or if you extend your phone wire out here for charging, then you can put your phones. Then on the passenger side seat there is like a pocket which has been given, in which there is nothing. Usually I find a lot of stuff. And the door cards, you can put like 1 to 1.5 liter worth of bottle, and small storage on the side, very small minimal one. Again, in the back the quality is plastic everywhere where you're going to be resting hands. That's just fabric. There's no hand rest given, and which is why you will have this fixed setup out here. And if you have another passenger like the third one in the back, then if you sit here, there's a bit of a hump out here in the bottom and even in the back, which is why you are sitting quite high up. My head is already kind of, couple of my hairs are kind of brushing the ceiling already, so that's about it. So on the longer journeys, yeah, you should avoid this middle seat, so it's more for 4 people, and the fifth one can be a little more accommodating. If they can, then it's a good thing. And these headrests are the fixed ones, but overall I like the visibility out here compared to some other models, like in a Hyundai Accent, where you are sitting quite low down and then you feel like the shoulder line of the rear door is quite high. But on this one it's pretty nicer, like you feel a lot more airy for sure out here in the back space of the Honda City. So this 2022 Honda City LX Sport is powered by a 1.5 liter 4-cylinder petrol engine that produces 121 horsepower and 145 Newton meters of torque, and this engine is mated to a CVT transmission. It's pretty similar to the HRV which I have recently reviewed. And in terms of the overall delivery of power, it's kind of alright for day-to-day use. This engine, which is a 1.5 liter, so yeah, it's not that much of a problem. But yeah, sometimes when you want to just accelerate quickly, there's that CVT grumbling which happens, and then it takes a little while to just accelerate. But that's about it. But more or less in a city environment or a day-to-day driving, it's going to be alright. It's just that it sometimes feels a little clunky and a little squirmy also. I'm going to come to that as well. But the clunkiness is especially when you're just going above 1100 RPM and 15 up to 1500. So yeah, if you can hear, like, there is this clunk that usually comes along, and then it takes a little while to react also when you put that. Although there are few different not just few different, it's just one mode, which is the Econ mode, which will even make it more slower than what it is right now. And from the gear stick you can just put it into the S mode, but that's just to make it a little more lively, but it's not going to make a huge difference. There's also these paddle shifters, again not a huge difference because it's a CVT. So yeah, it's more for the regular use, day-to-day use, and which is why it will give you a very good efficiency for day-to-day driving. So inside the city I'm getting anywhere between 12 to 12.5 kilometers per liter, and when you go on a longer journeys you will get about 13 to 13.5 kilometers per liter, which is pretty good. And it's got a 40 liter fuel tank as well, so you can do about 500 kilometers, roughly about that much of range that you will get on a full tank. Now when you come to the steering, this is an electronic steering which you get on this one. See, it takes a little while to accelerate. Yeah, so the electronic steering is kind of decent for day-to-day use. Also, it's got a very good small turning radius, that I will say. It's very nippy around, and especially the response from that steering, sometimes at a lower speed it's a little it takes a while to respond, but once you have a quarter or a half turn rotated, then it turns a lot more, so then it responds, and you can actually feel that sharp change of the setup in between. So that's the only thing, but otherwise it's light and it's good for everyday use. Now when you come to the suspensions, you get a very comfortable setup on this Honda City, but the thing is that it also got a little bit of a roll, so I want to demonstrate to you that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a slalom test, but let me explain you a little bit more. It's just also that the chassis, through that you feel sometimes slight bit of bumps also, and then the chassis is a little kind of stiff, which is why it's it's pretty much sends all the vibrations and everything, and also the stability itself, it keeps kind of gliding through that. Now let me show you what I was telling you about by doing a slalom test. So now out here I can even show you the steering. So yeah, so you see initially there is a lag and then there is a sharp response. So there is also a bit of a roll that you will find on this City as well. Now when you come to the noise and the vibrations, there is a bit of a tire noise that you will hear, and especially today when it's a windy day, you can also hear some wind whooshing around and everywhere, especially at higher speeds. Once you cross 120, 130, it can cross that speeds as well. But when you do that, it's kind of also like a little dancing around a little bit. That's about it. But in terms of the vibrations, it's pretty solid that way. The engine or vibrations or nothing of that sort of you will feel inside the car. So that way it's pretty good. Now in terms of the brakes, you get 2 disc brakes in the front and 2 drums in the back. So that's the only thing, and the pedal response is pretty good. But the only thing is, when I do an emergency brake test, or let's say if I do an emergency braking, then it's a little squirmy. So let me do up to 100 kilometers and do an emergency brake stop. So yeah, it's gonna take a little while to accelerate. Yeah, so once we do that, there's emergency stop signal as well. But yeah, it's sort of dancing around and a little squirmy when you're pressing the brakes press. The front 2 disc brakes, it's pretty obvious that the back ones are drum, because they just grip and then the car just literally squats quite a bit from the front, and then the back is a little loose and that way, which is why it's a bit all over the place when you do the emergency braking. Hopefully you don't have to do that, but this is just to show you if there is a need for that. Now when you come to the safety systems on this new Honda City, you get 2 front airbags for the driver and the passenger, and that is about it. There are also child isofix points in both the rear seats. There's also ABS, there's also electronic brake distribution, the emergency stop signal, which I have demonstrated a while ago. There is also a single camera reversing system, but the output from that is pretty dark and pretty saturated, especially once there is limited light, then it can become a lot more darker, and even in the day it can be a little difficult to see from that. And not just that, because there are no parking sensors on this one, so it makes life slightly difficult just based on the cameras. So yeah, just make sure to get used to that fact. Now when you come to the pricing, so there are 4 different models which are offered, which I mentioned before, which is the DX, there is also the LX, and there is also the EX. EX is the top of the line, whereas LX has 2 models, which is this LX Sport and the standard LX. So 4 different models. Now the DX starts from 61,000 dirhams, while the LX standard one comes in at 66,000 dirhams, and the EX comes in at 72,000 dirhams, while those are lots of numbers and I have to remember, by the way. And there's also the LX Sport, which is this one, which is 68,000 dirhams. The thing is, for that price, it's a decent bargain, I would say, and it's end of the day a City, which is a name that you already know about, and it's a trustworthy name. And it's so for a family sedan or a day-to-day car, there are some essential points which the car needs to tick, which is it has to be fuel economy, which this is pretty economic that way. It also has to be comfortable. Yes, it is. It's also easy to use. This one is like you just get in and everything is just pretty easy. You don't have to fiddle around a lot. You just get to know it quite well. And also it should be easier for everyday day-to-day use, which yeah, this car is pretty much, because there is not much to understand once you get inside this car. And for family use, these sort of cars are just the perfect ones. And also it looks kind of decent to me. No, let me know in the comment section below. Anyways, that is pretty much it for this video. Give this video a thumbs up, and thank you for watching this video. And if you want to subscribe to my channel, then you can click here, and if you want to watch more videos, then click here. I shall see you in the next video. Bye bye. Take care and stay safe.